Ah! Ah! Why?
Tonight, we head south to Kentucky, where things quickly went south.
You sound so sweet.
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Are you nervous about talking to me?
Kayla.
You're too much of a sweetheart.
I was saying thank God, too.
My precious little princess.
You know how long it took me to write that one?
About 15
I was
minutes.
calling you my little baby girl, too. I was saying thank God, too. Have you ever heard of the
Oh,
Beatles?
my God. You are so pretty.
Did you get my offline?
You are special. You're very special.
Okay, sing to me. I still got that chest cold hanging on to me a little bit.
Told you that. I'm waiting for you to call, precious.
Okay, bye, sweetheart. What color panties and bra? You want to come to my concert? I wish I was there with you right now. If I was, you'd be naked. It's going to be a lot better now that I've quit my job. I love you. Why wouldn't I want to be naked with you? I have a job interview on Monday. Are you anxious to touch my penis?
It's about 2:00 p.m. right now, and I'm sitting on my bed writing another entry for this book that I'm going to write a letter to my mother. A couple of guys pled guilty to their charges. Vern pled guilty to his assault charge for 25 years. I think that's a bit ridiculous, but the whole American justice system is messed up, so it's to be expected. Vern's sentence is at 85%, and it's actually 2 charges that equal 25 years. He'll actually be doing about 22 years. Nate pled guilty to his charge. His is for writing a couple bad checks that totaled $8,000 and cashing them at a bank. He pled for 8 years at 20%. At least I think that's what he told me. Mike, the ex-cop that's in here on the same charge as me, is no longer in the cell below me. He got into another fight and was moved to a different cell again. I'm not sure where. The messed up thing is that he got into a fight because of his charge. He never even did anything to the guy. That's why I will be talking about my charge at the end of this book and how it is wrong.
Aaron has been careful about getting on my nerves lately. Vern has also. They can tell I'm stressed out and anxious to get out of here. They can tell when I start getting mad because a vein in my forehead starts sticking out more. Aaron and Vern have been running around doing retarded things to Lorne again. Vern had 2 servings of broccoli earlier for dinner and has been shitting his britches ever since. I haven't smelled anything that could even come close to smelling that bad since I was pumping out septic systems in Washington State. Aaron stuck his finger down the crack of his ass earlier, then smelled it to make sure it smelled like shit. Then he waited until Vern was not paying attention and stuck the same finger under Vern's nose. They've been going back and forth, trying to make each other smell each other's shitty fingers. That takes a lot of intelligence. Aaron was in the shower earlier and Vern stole his clothes. Aaron came running out of the shower naked to get his clothes from Vern. Terry and Gentry really enjoyed that. They could see Aaron naked. Eric and myself both pulled Aaron to the side today to try and let him know that he should start working out now, because if he's attracting the supposed only 2 gays in the cell right now, then it's going to be a lot worse for him in prison. I kind of think that's what he's wanting though. Aaron's taking his case to trial in September. Nate came in to talk to me the other day earlier this week. He told me that out of everyone in the cell, I seem to be the only one that was the most honest and trustworthy. That makes me feel good because that's the type of person I've always tried to be.
Earlier in the week, my Mexican roommate, Alberto, was sitting on the picnic table watching his Spanish-speaking show, and Aaron quietly snuck up behind him and put his ass by Alberto's head and farted. Last night, Alberto did it back to Aaron, and then laughed so hard about it that he pissed his pants. Deputies here at the jail have been having quite a time with people writing requests from this cell. Even I wrote one request letting them know about one guy in here that has caused issues between everyone else. That guy is the one we all call Apostle Paul. He'd steal the gold wedding ring off his dead mother's finger if he could get away with it. Anyway, The deputies finally got tired of getting all the requests and basically told everyone to grow up. All I could think was that it was about time they had said something. That's all everyone talked about this week to me, and I got so annoyed at hearing the same thing over and over again. They all sounded like a bunch of babies. That's about all there is to write about for now. I'll write more next weekend about this week's events.
I've got 11 more days until my final sentencing day for the feds. Then I have to finish with the state charge. I'm unsure right now of what I'm going to do. Take it to trial or plead guilty and get out of this hellhole. The only reason I'll plead guilty with a state charge is to get out of this hellhole. I'll only plead guilty under certain circumstances too. What amazes me is that the law says that you can only be charged one time for a crime. So to get around that law, the state charged me for this crime, naming it one thing, then the feds charged me for the same crime, but just gave it a different name. It's double jeopardy in a supposedly legal way. What I call it is a crock of shit. In my opinion, if the feds pick up a case, the state should automatically have to drop it. The only reason that the state isn't dropping my case is because they want more money. That to me is sick, dishonest justice. The charge is bullshit anyway, because the authorities had to talk me into doing the crime I did. And they only did that so they could make a television show. If I would have been in my right frame of mind at the time and not been so vulnerable, they never would have been able to talk me into doing this disgusting crime. The same goes with a few other guys that got talked into doing the same crime. One guy was an ex-cop that his wife cheated on him, so he was separated and going through a divorce at the time. Another guy lost his job for over 20 years and had other problems. And another guy was suicidal and was grieving from the recent death of his brother. It amazes me how the greed for money can possess a person or a group of people to be so dishonorable to talk other people into doing crimes for the benefit of their own wallet. I guess that's enough for right now. I'll talk more about my case at the end of the book and tell the reason I'm in this place. Right now, I've picked out another book to read to help me pass more time.
Terry was in here earlier, crying about his family and how they've mistreated him. The guy is a disgusting idiot. He was in prison once before for child molestation and is in here now for having child pornography and videos on his computer. He's the 52-year-old gay that has a crush on the 22-year-old in here. He told me that when he gets in the shower, he is going to ask Aaron if he wants to come in with him and wash his back. He said if Aaron says no, then he is going to ask him if he wants to wash his front. That was disgusting. The guy is big and fat and a drone. His gut sticks way out in front of him. I kind of think sometimes that Aaron is gay though. I just think he hasn't come out of the closet yet. We finally got rid of the Apostle Paul freak in the end. The guy is an idiot. We got another old guy in his place. It's about looked like he could pass for the Apostle Paul's brother. I don't know what his name is, but I guess it doesn't matter because he was only in here for a day. He didn't really look intelligent though. We got another guy in right after that guy left. A black guy. His name is Sean. I don't know much about him yet, but he seems to be an alright person. I'm sure eventually I'll learn more about him. Gentry's happy to have him in here because he's black. Gentry was the only black person in here, and ironically, Gentry was the only one that ever mentioned it.
Right now, Nate is in my room with me and my roommate. He's a disgusting guy. He used to weigh over 400 pounds and he's lost over 200 pounds. He said he's bored right now and he wants to eat because of boredom, and he doesn't like that. I told him to do some exercise to cure his boredom, but he didn't like that idea either. Eric and Vern came in before Nate did and asked me what I was writing. I told him I was writing the book and I wouldn't let anyone read except my family until it's done. I don't really think that the guys in here would appreciate how ignorant I think they are. So they can wait until I'm done with the book to read it, then I won't be around. I'm surprised today that Aaron and Vern haven't been doing their usual gay stuff. Vern's been playing around with some other guys and irritating me. For some reason he can't seem to keep his hands to himself. He's one of them types of people that likes to lie about things to make himself look good, but it only makes him look like more of an idiot. Whenever we're watching the news and some place comes on in a certain location here in Kentucky, he always says he lives 3 miles from that place. It's a good thing the White House isn't in Kentucky, or he'd live 3 miles from that too. He always tries to make believe he knows what they're talking about in the news, and he'll say something before they do and make himself look stupid because the anchorman will say something to detest what Vern said. The guy's an irritating idiot, plain and simple. Everyone in here is coming down with the cold, and Gentry's throwing a fit because he wants to see the nurse and they haven't gotten down there yet. I tried to tell him he's not special and they'll get to him when you can. Herman's case went federal today. Go figure though, the state's still holding on to it even though the feds picked it up. From what I hear, Herman's first offer from the state is 40 years at 80%. I wish him luck. His ex-wife wants to kill him. He seems quite afraid of her too. I'm sitting here right now waiting for a specific program to come on TV in 30 minutes, so I thought I'd catch up a little on this. Yesterday, Aaron and Vern made my mouth drop again. I didn't think that was possible, but it happened. They were both in my room talking to me and they started fooling around with each other trying to hit each other in the nuts. Vern wrapped a thin laundry bag around his head so it covered his mouth and him and Aaron made out. God. Literally made out with each other with just a thin laundry bag between them. I almost puked. I told them if they were going to do that disgusting crap, then they needed to do it some other place. God, that was gross. I found out some other stuff yesterday that was also quite disgusting. Eric told me that John and Terry had sex with each other when they were roommates. That's why John and Nate switched rooms and Nate is now Terry's roommate. Because Terry's been trying not to do gay things. Looks like he failed though. Doesn't sound like he was trying too hard to me. Okay. Last night, Eric and Vern almost got put in isolation because they kept kicking the door after lockdown. The guard said he knew who it was that was doing it, and if they did it again, he was going to put them in isolation. Eric is 37 and Vern is 27. Unfortunately, they both act like adolescents. Eric is always trying to start shit between other people, and Vern is a follower. I guess it doesn't take much to figure out how stupid they both are. I was hoping they'd kick the door again last night, and so was everyone else, just to get rid of their dumb asses.
It's about 4:30 a.m. right now, and I seem to be having a hard time getting back to sleep, so I thought I'd write about last night's events. After supper, I noticed that Terry was having a tough time standing up and focusing on things, so I filled out a medical request for him to see the nurse. They have him on some new medication, and I don't think it's agreeing with him. About 5 different people came to talk to me about James and the TV again. They were irritated and pissed off because he started doing the same thing all over again that we just got him to stop doing 2 weeks ago when it came to the TV. Eric made up a chart of the hours and days that James has watched TV compared to everyone else. He was watching like 25 or 27 hours of TV per week. I can't understand how he can watch that much TV. I have a hard time sitting on these steel tables watching 1 hour of TV per day. James almost got into a fight with me because he started saying stupid things to me, and he almost got in a fight with Eric for the same reason. I called him out in the middle of the floor because he kept running his mouth. I hated too, but I was fed up with his ignorance about the TV. He wouldn't come out and fight me though. After that, Eric swung at him and barely missed James's nose, but hit his hands. After leaving him alone for a few to think, he apologized to all of us, but I think that was just so they would let him watch the TV on our TV days. I hate that everyone comes to me when they find something about someone they don't like. It irritates me to no end. They all need to grow up and stop acting so immature and stop trying to take advantage of each other. It doesn't take that much effort to be honest and fair.
Alberto has run out of toilet paper again. He goes to the bathroom about 4 or 5 times a day. I asked Aaron if he had some toilet paper he could give to me and Alberto until Tuesday when they hand out more. He said he didn't have much left. Both me and Alberto know he was lying, because we saw it sitting on his shelf. Not to mention that I was the one that got him one of the 2 extra rolls they put in the bathroom. I said something to Aaron, along with some other guys, about not letting us have some toilet paper, after we had helped him out getting some commissary items when he didn't have any money. Ignorance pisses me off. The kid acted like he paid for the toilet paper. Anyway, someone else gave me and Alberto more toilet paper. Me and Alberto lock our door an hour early every night, just so we can have an hour of no stupidity every day. Pretty sad to have to do that, but that's what you have to expect in a place like this. It's late in the day now. Actually, it's almost midnight. We're locked down now, so I figure I'd write this and write a letter to my mother, then go to sleep and mail this out to her in the morning.
It was somewhat of an interesting day today. James started hogging TV again today, so Eric said something to him. I was in the shower at the time. By the time I got out of the shower, discussion still hadn't ceased. It actually just became more stupid. But considering the two people that was arguing, it didn't surprise me. I stayed out of it and just observed. It was funny. Eric swung at James and just barely missed his nose, and scared James into shutting up. We basically solved the problem by moving James in with Aaron and John in with Herman. A little while later, I was turned back to Aaron and Herman, and started to step up and sit on the picnic tabletop, and Aaron smacked me in the ass with his new flip-flops that he just bought. And those things are hard rubber, and they hurt someone when you hit with them. I had just gotten burned to not hit me with them again, because you could see that it was really beginning to piss me off. Well, it pissed me off even more when Aaron hit me with them, because he knows how much it took to pound it into Vern's head to stop hitting people with them. Unfortunately, Aaron started running his mouth to me and got in my face. Dumb thing to do considering I'm bigger than he is. But some people just want to play tough guy and run their mouth. I would have let him run his mouth. The stupid thing is, he did was touch my face with his finger, and that really pissed me off. After that, I grabbed him, threw him about 10 feet. The dumbass came back running his mouth again, so I grabbed both his feet and pulled them out from underneath him. And I turned to walk away because I didn't want to hit him. He's the same age as my nephews, so that made me not want to hit him. Unfortunately, again, started running his mouth again. I was just going to let him run his mouth and not do anything while he cocked his arm back and hit my ear with his fist. Almost as soon as my fist hit his ear, I came back with a right and left. Now he has a welt on his back and a goose egg on his forehead. I walked away after that and kept his mouth shut. About 15 minutes later, we shook hands and started laughing about it because we were the last two guys in the cell that anyone expected would fight each other. And that was only the second or third time I've hit anyone in here. The first time I broke the guy's nose and I was happy about it. This time, I felt bad. But at the same time, it was funny. And that's all for this report.
I have no idea what time it is right now. I'll have to wait for the guard to come around to find out. It took me a while to wake up after lockdown, so that's why I don't know what time it is. Normally, I get right up and make my coffee right after he opens the door. For some reason, I was really tired tonight and didn't get right up after lockdown. Not much of anything special happened yesterday. I was going to go right back to bed after we ate breakfast, but I was too much awake by that time, so I stayed up. I shaved off my goatee and mustache this morning also. I have my final sentencing on Monday, so I wanted to have a clean face for it. Impressions are everything, and in this case it can mean an additional 14 months of my life being incarcerated if the judge sticks with the agreed amount of the plea agreement instead of giving me the lowest amount possible. Which giving me the lowest amount possible would be the smartest thing to do, considering I am not and never was a threat to society. I'm doing time because the authorities talked me into doing a crime. And actually, I have to write a letter to the judge to read in my defense on Monday so that I can try to get a lower sentence. So I'm going to do that, then I will come back and write some more when I'm through. Okay, I'm back now. A guard came through about 10 minutes ago and told me that it was 1 a.m. Not as late as I thought it might be. I just finished writing a 2-page letter that I'm going to read to the judge at my final sentencing on Monday. Hopefully it will help to bring some things to light and help to keep my sentence as low as possible. My time is getting shorter and shorter here at this jail, thank God. A person can only take so much ignorance, and heaven knows I've been around my share in this situation.
At head count today, one of the guards that came in told Herman that he saw him on the news a couple days ago. I have a strong feeling that he's got quite the load of charges on him. After the guard told Herman he saw him on the news, all Herman could do was look down and keep quiet as his face turned a very bright shade of red. The man looked like he was going to cry. To my relief, Eric didn't come in my room again today. I should say to my relief and to my roommate's relief. We both can't stand him. I still heard him say some stupid things when he was in the day room and I was in my room, but that was to be expected because he only says ignorant things anyway. I've got a good feeling that guy will never see the outside world again. But that's what happens when you believe in hating someone just because of their color of skin. I call it ignorance at its best. I cannot understand how someone could hate someone else for being born. I can understand hating someone if they intentionally did something to harm you or a loved one in some way, but not for being born. That's just complete ignorance. Nobody has a choice about being born, so how can someone else justify the hatred for it? Eric is the kind of person you want to stay as far away from as possible because you're afraid his stupidity could be contagious. He thinks he's the coolest thing since ice cream, and hardly anyone likes him in here now because of his idiocy. I think even Vern might be coming around to seeing how stupid Eric is. Surprisingly enough, Vern has spent a lot more time here visiting me in Alberta in the last 2 days in what seemed like an attempt to get away from Eric. Nate has done the same thing too.
Vern is another case that really has some issues. He has a big spot on his leg that is now all red and bumpy. At first I told him he might be allergic to something, but then I thought about it. More I realized that we hadn't had anything different to eat or used any different kind of soap and such since I've been here. He's allergic to tomatoes, but they cured that by avoiding giving him anything with tomatoes in it or on it. Well, he showed me his irritated spot on his leg again today. Not because I asked to see it, but because he wanted me to see it again. I told him that the nurse will probably have some cream that he can put on it, and it will help. He said he tried that already, and it didn't help any. That was an ignorant thing to say, because I knew he hadn't tried that yet. Because he hadn't even seen the nurse about it yet. I decided just to go with the flow and nod my head at what he said because it doesn't do any good to argue with stupidity. But the whole time, I realized that the reason he had that big irritated spot on his leg was because he was purposely been scratching to make it look like something was wrong with him for the attention and so that he could try to get some more pills. It's sad that some people would go to such extents for attention and pills. You'd think the jail would see it as a sign of someone needing rehabilitation, but their solution is to give him some more pills when he gets in prison. Dumbasses! Nate's been staying away from Eric more and more and hanging around with me and Alberto also. I think he's beginning to see how warped Eric is, too. Nate is probably the only other one besides me and Alberto that is on the normal side. Gentry isn't too bad, and his roommate Sean also doesn't seem to be bad either. So that makes almost 50% of this cell that is somewhat normal. Probably the best percentage this cell has seen since I've been in here. That's sad too. It won't be too much longer, and most of the people in this cell will be gone. Actually, within the next 2 months, it will all be changing again. And thank God, I will be the one of them that will be leaving this hellhole. When I do leave here and go to wherever the destination spot is for my sentence, I think I'm going to end this book and start a different one. So I may not tell the reason I'm incarcerated until the end of that book. I'll have to think that over.
It's amazing to me the thoughts that are running through my head right now. I've been sitting here for the last 10 minutes, probably just staring into space and wondering. There must be a reason that Claude wanted me to be here and to go through this. I'm smart, honest, and caring enough to not normally do what I did to get myself in here. Even on the road to committing the crime that got me in here, everything inside of me was telling me to turn around and go home, but something else inside me kept driving me to move forward. The only thing that I could think is that Claude must want me to go through this for a good reason. So because of that, and because of honesty, and people should know the truth that I'm writing this book. I'm trying to make the best of a bad situation, pass time, and teach people that not all justice is honest justice. A lot of justice is play with somebody's life for the money kind of justice. Another reason the United States prison system is overcrowded. Another reason I'll be happy to be out of this place because it's killing my knees. I do everything I can to continuously get some exercise every day, but because of stretching so much, it's taken a bit of a toll on my knees. Sometimes it doesn't pay to get older. I was doing a lot of stretching, though, probably more than I should have at my age because I was able to put my leg up by my head with both legs completely straight. I think that may be the reason why my right leg locked up on me and jammed my knee one day when I was playing basketball. I've stopped stretching for the last 2 weeks, and my knees seem to be very slowly be getting back to normal. I guess that's all for this entry.
It's about 11:30 p.m. right now, and I'm trying to stay up all night again so that I can avoid the ignorance during the day. I tried to stay up all of last night, but failed because of boredom. I ended up going to bed around 2 a.m. I slept a little today, so I'm hoping I'll be able to last all night until about 2 or 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. That's usually about the time that Eric and Vern, the two most ignorant people in the cell, wake up for the day. Today was mine and Alberto's day for the TV, and go figure. There was no arguing or fighting over it. Whenever it's someone else's day for the TV, they always argue and fight over programs to watch, and times of shows and stupid things like that. They all need to grow up. I keep telling them, it's a television. The same shit is going to be on again and again and again. Stop arguing over something so stupid. They all agree with me, then an hour later they start arguing all over again. Morons. Me, Nate, and Terry were the only three to go out to wreck today. It was outside, thank God. It was actually quite hot and humid, but I didn't care. It was good to get the fresh air. Of course, Terry had to be the 52-year-old baby that he is and start bitching about James and the television. I told him I really didn't care to hear about it. It gets old listening to the same old shit over and over again. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to at least lay down and take a nap for an hour or two tonight. I'm already feeling my eyes get tired. The longer I can stay awake, the better off I'll be. But at the same time, I don't want to make myself sick either. Got with that chest gold hanging on to me a little bit.
Only 3 more days until my final sentencing for the feds. I'm hoping that I'll get the minimum amount of time possible. I honestly shouldn't even be going through any of this bullshit. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I'm just gonna do my best to make sure that honest justice is at least brought out in the open and makes the public aware of the corruptness that got me in here to begin with. That's why this book is so important to me. After my final sentencing is done for the feds, I have to go to state court on the 7th or the 14th of July, either to plead guilty and get 7 years at 20, or make the decision to take it to trial. The only way I'll plead guilty is if it's under my terms. If they don't accept my terms, then we'll be going to trial. I should take it to trial anyway, because the whole thing is wrong. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I just heated up my last cup of coffee that I have from this morning. The way that I heat it is I put it in a Ziploc freezer baggie, zip it up tight, then run it under hot water until it gets hot enough to drink. Personally, I'd rather use a microwave, but unfortunately, one's not available to me right now, so compromise is good. The prices on commissary here are ridiculous. I pay 25 cents for each Ziploc freezer bag. It usually only lasts me a couple of weeks before it gets a little hole in it, then I have to buy another one. Little Debbie snack cakes with 12 cakes per box cost me $4. On the streets, they cost around $2. A box of saltine crackers on the streets costs $1.50 at the most. In here, they cost $2.90. For ibuprofen, Tylenol, or aspirin, they charge 35 cents in here for a little packet with 2 200-milligram tablets. They basically double the price from what you'd pay on the streets. It's pathetic and greedy and unjustifiable in my opinion. Not to mention, it should be illegal to charge people $25 a day to be in jail, but they do, and go figure that here in the messed up state of Kentucky, it's legal. I have the feeling that Eric isn't too happy right now. He has to spend the whole weekend drawing pictures for my little rhyming children's book that I wrote because I need to send it out with a lot of other things to my mother, and there's about 30 pages in it. He has to draw pictures on every page, including one for the cover on front. He won't be able to be out of his room much to run his mouth because of it. That's a major plus. He tried to start shit tonight at lockdown. He waited until everyone was locked down in their rooms, then came over and asked me if he should turn the shower on and leave it so that everyone would lose the television tomorrow. I told him I thought he was ignorant. He left the shower alone and went to his room and locked down after seeing that I wasn't impressed by his idiocy. The sooner that asshole leaves, the better off this place will be. The same goes for Vern. He's just as much of a moron, just in different ways. To be quite honest, I cannot see how his underwear is not all shit-stained. He farts so much and with such an oops, I think there were chunks in that one kind of sound to it. I have a feeling that he does a lot of scrubbing on them. Nasty bastard that he is. The sad part is that he thinks he's funny. The more it stinks, the harder he laughs. Shows a real sign of intelligence there. The dumbass. I got lucky on Thursday when I went to the gym. I found over half a roll of toilet paper in the bathroom, so I hid it in my coveralls and brought it back with me. Fortunately, my roommate Alberto hasn't gone through it all yet. I think he's being careful with it right now because we don't get any more until Tuesday. I still have a whole roll left, but if I wouldn't have found that half a roll, we'd end up borrowing someone else's toilet paper or using paper towels until Tuesday. I've never seen anyone that has to shit as much as him. Then he stays in the bathroom for 45 minutes to an hour at a time. Aaron peeked up over the curtain a couple of times by standing on something and looked in to see what Albert was doing. He said he was just sitting there, pulling on the end of his penis. I kind of have a hard time believing that. I don't really think Aaron is the most honest preacher in the church.
Well, I've been sitting here for the last 5 minutes or so, and I haven't written a thing. Thought about laying down and reading a book that I'm in the middle of, but I'm afraid it'll put me to sleep. Also, the fact that I don't really feel like reading it right now. It hasn't grabbed my attention as much as the previous 2 books that I've read. They were good stories, and it was hard to put them down. A large reason was due to the chapters being so short. It was easy to say, oh, this chapter is just 2 or 3 pages long, so I'll read this chapter, then stop for a bit. Before you know it, you're almost all done the book, so you just keep going and finish it. Funny how it's easy to continue reading when the chapters are really short. It's also funny how I enjoy reading now, but I never used to when I was growing up. Even when we got an assignment to read a book, I still never read it. Cliff notes come in handy. I had too many other things I wanted to do when I got home from school that topped the priority list and made it so that reading was way down the bottom. Actually, to be quite honest, homework was way down on the list for me too, until my mother realized I had homework to do, then I had no choice. By the sounds of it, I'm not the only one staying up tonight. I just heard someone flush their toilet and heard a little talking too. I thought about saying something to find out who it is until I thought about it more and realized I'd have to hear their voices. That turned me off of saying anything at all to them. The guard just came through on his rounds and I asked him what time it was. He told me 1:45. He didn't look like he was any more than 19 or 20 years old at the most. I bet he enjoys this job. It's about the most boring job anyone could have. That must be why they have such a high turnover rate. I guess I've written enough for tonight. I think I'll read.
It's about 12:15 a.m. right now. I just finished writing a letter to my mother, so I figured I'd write another entry in my book before I send all my stuff out with my letter in the morning. I have my final sentencing in the morning, so I'm hoping that the judge will give me the least amount of time possible. There's really no reason why he shouldn't, because I don't have a prior criminal record. I'm sure I'll have to write another entry tomorrow, just to tell you about what I received for time. If I don't write tomorrow, then it will be in my next entry. Not a lot really happened here today. I tried to get some sleep so I could stay up later tonight, but I only succeeded in getting about an hour and a half because I was deep in thought about my final sentencing tomorrow. I have to stay up late enough, though, at least to get my big envelope ready to be sent off in the morning. I'm sending everything that I need to send back that's of value to me and that I need to keep. I also have to send back a rhyming children's book that I wrote that I'm having Eric draw the pictures to. He's not putting a whole lot of effort into these pictures in this book, I can tell, so I'll probably end up having someone else draw them over again. He drew one in there of a goat that has satanic horns on it. I won't have time in the morning to fix it before I send it out, so I asked Mother in a letter I wrote her to erase the horns. Eric is such a loser. Sometimes just the way he looks at me makes me want to deck him, then tell him to turn his evil-looking face in a different direction. Not much longer and I won't have to deal with his idiot anyway. Funny. Right now my roommate is sitting across from me picking his nose. I have my head down writing so he doesn't think I can see him. Ha! He can't read English either, so I can write that about him and he doesn't know what it says, especially when he'd have to read it upside down. He stopped picking his nose now. Now he's picking up his skin on his stomach. I guess that's all I'm going to write tonight because I'm tired, and I still have to do up stuff to send out in the morning. Besides that, I'm a little tired too.
Dear Diary, I've been writing this book almost all the time I've been here, and to be honest, do I feel like I'm repeating myself with the stupid things that happen in here? I may write a book and name it Camp, for when I get out of here and go to prison camp, which will be soon. But for now, I think I'll have to bring this book to the conclusion. Before I bring this book to an end, I've decided I'm going to tell you the reason I'm in this situation and discuss it a little. My final court date is August 18th for my final sentencing for the state. and I've already had my final sentencing for my federal charge. If you're not catching on to what I said, that I have been charged basically twice for the same crime. The only difference is they gave it a different name on the federal end and added traveling interstate commerce, i.e. crossing state lines. Now, you would think that when the feds picked it up, the state would drop it, which they probably would have if it was any other state besides Kentucky. I was told by one of the inmates that live here that the motto for this place is come on vacation, leave on probation, and come back on violation. Not exactly a reputation that a city would thrive for when attracting tourism. Well, anyway, from what I've seen and heard since I've been here, is that the officials in this city thrive for power and recognition any way they can possibly get it, good or bad. One of those ways is what landed me here at the Wayne County Regional Jail. For those of you that have never heard of the MSNBC Dateline show To Catch a Predator, they're a reality television show that attempts to catch online predators. That's the reason I'm in jail. The thing that irks the hell out of me is that some people on this show are made out to be something that they're not. The good thing about America is the freedom of speech. The bad thing about America is that the decision of guilty or not guilty can be brought by what the media decides should be seen by the public and what should not be seen by the public. Now, unfortunately, the media thrives to bring out the worst in people because that's what sells. They think that people want to hear disgusting things regardless of its truth or a lie, and regardless of how circumstances come about. The way I was raised was to be honest and always tell the truth. Well, sometimes the truth may hurt, but at least it won't come back to bite you in the keister later. Yes, something MSNBC Dateline To Catch a Predator and its host Chris Hansen and their affiliates Perverted Justice should have thought about when they started doing their show. Their way of thinking is that they can do and put anything they want on television and America will believe anything they say. They never expected someone would write a book telling about all their disgusting tactics that they use to get people on their show so that the ratings will go up, so that they can make a dishonest dollar from the American citizen. Something else that American citizens don't realize is the amount of tax dollars this show causes the federal government to use on arresting, incarceration, food, extra paperwork, court costs, public defenders, probation/parole, transportation, clothing, classes, and electricity. And that's only a few of the things that I could think of off the top of my head. I wrote the figures down that they figured it was costing for just me alone to keep incarcerated compared to other forms of punishment. Now, before this, I've always kept a clean record, the exception of the DUI that I received 2 years before this. The legal limit was 0.08, and my blood level was 0.09878. So I was barely over the legal limit, and the drug I had been using was Bud Light beer, the very legal drug. It's sad to think that I've always believed in the American justice system until now. I agree very much with the purpose of the show when they're out to catch actual predators. Unfortunately, they've proved that their intentions are out to catch anyone that they can so that they can make a show.
Let me explain more of what I mean about that. I moved from the Northeast to Tennessee to make a new start and to try to make it in country music. I had gone through some things in my home state that made me want to go where I didn't know anyone and just start over fresh. Obviously, the things I'd gone through was nothing illegal. It was all personal things. I decided to do something that nobody in their right mind would ever do. I sold my house that I had over $50,000 into for $8,000 back to the people I was buying it from and moved to Tennessee. I had gotten myself set up with a good job and an apartment, and I'd been there for 7 weeks. Obviously, I still hadn't gotten my mind straight from the things I'd gone through in my home state and still couldn't think quite straight. However, I was talking in a chat room one day and came across a 13-year-old girl. I had told her to never give her address, phone number, real name, or the school she went to anyone from the internet. I was trying to protect her from the sick people on the internet. These people from Perverted Justice were really the people I was talking to, but I didn't know it at the time. I had no intention of ever being anything to this girl except for someone who warned her about the dangers of the internet and then leave her alone. Perverted Justice kept talking and found that I was vulnerable because of the things I'd been going through, so they played on that and got me to talk sexual to the girl and talked me into coming to Bowling Green, Kentucky to her house after I told them no several different times. Perverted Justice had used guilt trips and anything they could to get me to finally come to this house in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They'd even sent me 11 or 12 pictures that weren't even of the same girl. I couldn't see it at the time, even though it was very plain to see that the pictures were of different girls. The only thing that I was able to see was that someone was giving me attention that had to do with me. It could have been an 80-year-old lady, and I would have reacted the same way. As sad as that may sound, it's even more sad to know that I was that far out of it. I had always wondered how it could be that a person could be so far gone in the head that it could make him do something stupid. Now that I've been there, I can see that it's possible. Another guy that got caught up in this same thing was going through marital problems and was separated because his wife had cheated on him after 6 months of being married. He had told Perverted Justice no several different times too, but they kept on him until he gave in. Chris Hansen says that they simply afford people the opportunity. That's nothing but a load of cow manure coming from a mouth that gets paid to lie. What they do is they find people that are vulnerable and talk them into committing a crime so that they can make a television show and bring in a paycheck. I've received 60 months from the feds for a sentence at 85% and 7 years from the state of Kentucky for a sentence at 20%. I now have to register as a sex offender for life with the feds and be on supervised release for at least 2 years after my 60 months of incarceration, and for the state, I have to register as a sex offender for 20 years after my release and be on probation for 5 years. As far as me getting 60 months for a sentence from the feds, that's nothing but a crock of crap too. I should have gotten a sentence of 46 months because it was at the low end of my guideline range. 57 months was at the high end. I had a digital camera in the glove box of my truck that also had a disc to go with it to download the camera hardware on computers, and the cord that plugged in from the camera to the computer for when you were transferring from the camera to the computer. The reason the camera was in my truck was because I tried to pawn it a few days before. I just never took it out of my truck when I returned from the pawn shop, rejecting pawning it. The reason they wouldn't take it on pawn for me is because the cover that holds the batteries in place was broke. The prosecutors for the feds came up with an offer of 60 months and told me that if I didn't plead guilty and accept their plea offer, then they were going to go after me for attempted production of child pornography, which holds a 15-year sentence if I lost. Just the thought of the prosecutor's accusation made me sick to my stomach. It really depressed me to think that this was the way the justice system worked in the United States. I told my federal appointed defender's investigator that the pawn shop I was in to pawn the camera had video cameras, and that could prove that I was in the pawn shop with the camera. The guy just shrugged it off without trying. I figured with a defense team like that, I would be safer to plead guilty and take the 60-month offer rather than take my chances at losing 15 years of my life because of the poor defender I had and the disgusting accusation from the prosecution. I am in no means rejecting responsibility on my part. I allowed myself to be talked into attempting to do this disgusting crime that should actually be considered entrapment. What I'm saying is that if MSNBC Dateline is going to do such a show as this, then they and their affiliates, Perverted Justice, need to be sure that they're catching actual predators, not taking advantage of someone's mental or emotional state of mind and talking them into doing something they wouldn't normally do simply to help their ratings for a television show and to help put money in their pockets. If someone is an actual predator, they'll be out there looking for it. They won't have to be talked into doing this crime. What's even worse is that the United States government would allow a major television network to do such a thing and not have rules and regulations set up for such a thing. I like seeing justice done too, but I like seeing honest justice, not paycheck and ratings justice.
My time has gotten straightened out to a point. It's no longer 10:14-2:15. It's now 10:17-2:12, which is still not right, because that means they're making me serve 100% of the 60-month sentence when I'm only supposed to serve 85% of the 60-month sentence. What's happened is, they don't want to give me credit for the time I was in jail. They're saying that I was in Kentucky state custody at the time, and my federal time didn't start until my federal sentencing. Yet, they say my state and federal sentences are to run concurrent. To me, concurrent means together from the start. Not together, but starting 9 months later. Then my federal investigator, that works for my federal lawyer, had the nerve to tell me that they got that fixed for me, and they didn't even have to do that, and that was the final bottom line date that they could get my sentence fixed to. Well, I've done some talking to a couple of other inmates that have gone through the same thing, and they said they've gotten their jail credit for their federal sentence, even though they were in state custody at the time, that they just had to fight for it. So, I have a legal aid working on that for me. I also have the same legal aid working on my response to NBC's answer to my complaint. We put in a 30-day extension to respond to it also, so that I had time to give a good response to their answer, even though their answer was pretty weak. They were stuck on libel and slander, even though the court already dismissed any claim of libel and slander, and they never denied anything that I wrote in my claims, so that just goes to show that they're done wrong. As far as how I am doing here at Fort Dix, New Jersey, I'd say I'm starting to do better. I've gotten a lot of customers for my laundry business so that I can make some halfway decent money, and I'm also ironing uniforms to make extra money, plus typing for people to make extra money. That is all to go with the approximate $20 per month, which is 12 cents per hour, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that I make from the prison. So, I can let my mother know, finally, that I don't need her to send me money anymore. I hope that makes her feel good as it makes me feel. If I win my lawsuit against NBC, I'll be taking care of her financially for the rest of her life, and that will make me feel happier than anything. Love, Lorne.
Well, I called my mom 2 days ago, so I'm just now getting to write the update. She told me that the lady called to come inspect the house I'll be living at. My mother asked her when I was supposed to be getting out, and the lady told my mother I was to get out in May. Well, that came as a shock when my mother told me that. I figured I would know before anyone else when I'd be getting out. So, obviously, the court ordered BOP to release me. I'm getting out finally on May 4th. They'll be putting a monitor bracelet on my ankle from what I'm understanding, because I'm actually in their custody, from what I'm figuring, until May 6th. And I guess they also need to make sure that I go to the state I say I'm going to, and don't take off somewhere else. I'm guessing that they'll be taking the bracelet off me on the 6th, since that's when she told my mother I am to report into her. I'm a little nervous about going home and how things will be so different for me and things I need to do. I will be doing another lawsuit on BOP for keeping me incarcerated 80 days past my release date. I was looking it all up on Trulier's website today, and it's right in the constitutional amendments under Amendment 14, Due Process. Well, that makes another lawsuit that I'll be doing. People may end up thinking I'm sue happy, but I'm not. I'm just pissed off about the whole rack of bullshit, and I want those that like to do a person wrong to pay. And like it says in the US Constitution, to keep blood from being spilled, the debt will be paid in money. And boy, are they going to pay when I'm finished. I'm going after everyone that tried so hard to ruin my life. Anyway, I'll be ending this book soon, obviously. May 6th will be my last entry. I don't know if I write another book or not. It's a possibility. I'm not telling anyone here that I'm leaving. They don't need to know. I told 3 people, and that's all. Screw the rest of them. I can't stand most of the freaks here anyway. Some are alright, but most are a bunch of ignorant followers that can't decide for themselves. They need some other person to tell them how to act, what to do, and who to talk to. Then they think themselves tough because they're protected. Having protection in here doesn't help them at all in the streets, so they really should learn to keep their mouths shut more often. Anyway, I put myself on a diet last week and started walking a lot again. See if I can lose these 5 pounds I've gained since I've been typing a lot. It feels good to go walking a lot again. It will feel a lot better to be home though. I need to sit in front of a campfire and do some burning of the conversation I had, so maybe it will in some way help my healing process and help me to find myself again after going through this nightmare.
On May 16, 2012, this is the letter I received from the Kentucky Department of Public Advocacy. May have to write a short summary of the letter. After reading this letter, I knew already that I would have to do my own case in the Court of Appeals on my own. I was hoping it would take a little longer than it did for them to answer it, but, oh well. If I lose at the appellate level, though, I'll take it to the next level. Hopefully by then, I will have won my lawsuit and have the money to pay for a dissent lawyer to get this shit gone from my life. It's sad that the justice system is run by how much money a person has versus honesty in the Constitution. It's like, after you show them what it says in plain English in the Constitution, they say, oh, it does say that in the Constitution. And you're right, but you don't have enough money to pay me to admit that you're right, so I'm going to deny you your freedom for years upon years of your life. That should teach you to be right, and to help us make more money from the taxpayers. A worthless and corrupt system.
I still haven't heard anything from my jail credit yet, but I expect it to be another month anyway. Honestly, I think it would hurt me more if I were to be immediately released this week because of the mail I'm waiting for. The end of this week would be great, but I don't really expect it to be another month anyway. As far as what I've been doing to pass the time here, I've been typing legal work for the same guy only. I'm not spending as much of my time at the law library. For the last 1.5 months, I've been going to the gym every day because I'm trying to get my 6-pack abs back before I go home. Right now, I have my 4-pack, so I have 2 more to get. I'm working hard enough at it, so there's a chance I'll be able to do it. Unless I leave this week to go home. Even if I don't get my jail credit that I should get. I only have another 120 days left, but I still want my jail credit. It's time I already served, and they need to pay for keeping me incarcerated longer than what I am supposed to be. I'm mad as hell about it, and I'm sure anyone in my shoes would be. God!
I figured it was about time for an update, so here I am. Today is supposed to be 97 degrees Fahrenheit, with the heat index of 105 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's going to be a hot one. As of right now, if I have to stay until my BOP outdate, then I only have 102 days left. My motion has been on the judge's desk for 5.5 weeks now, and almost every motion I've ever put into the court has taken 2 months, so I'm figuring I have another 2 weeks left. That's just by my guess though. It could be less, or it could be more. Or I may have to wait the whole 102 days before I get out of this pit hole. Either way, I don't have much longer here. My BP11 that I sent in a long time ago still hasn't come back yet. It's the last part of the administrative remedy that I would have had to do before sending it into the court about my jail credit. They were originally supposed to have it back to me on the June 16th, but then wanted an extension until July 7th. And now, here it is, July 26th, and I still haven't gotten a reply back from them about my 259 days of jail credit. Thank God I didn't wait to send my motion for jail credit into the court. The BOP does this extension bit on purpose to keep delaying a person until they get out of their custody. It's just another corrupt act by the government to make more money off a person being incarcerated. Everything else is going alright, with the exception of this one guy in the room I've been in since I've been here. His name's Jake, and his bed is directly across from where I sleep and have my locker. Every morning he rushes to eat breakfast and rushes to get back, take a shit, and then lay down before he has to go to work. I never gave it a whole lot of thought before until I started noticing how he constantly picks at things on the other guy's body. But after noticing that, I started paying more attention to the way he hurries to get back from breakfast or take a shit and be in place on his bed. But after noticing that, I started paying more attention to the way he hurries to get back from breakfast to take a shit and be in place on his bed before I get back from eating to change out of my shorts and t-shirt and into my uniform. The last few days I paid attention to that, and this morning, when I woke up, he was still asleep, like he is every morning when I get up. Because I get up at 3:30 or 4, but this morning, after I came back from taking my shower, I directly put in my uniform pants on and my t-shirt, so he couldn't check me out anymore. I'm happy now that I solved that problem. Some people are really pathetic and disgusting.
I just wrote an entry yesterday, but something happened last night, or this morning rather, that I just had to tell about. One of the scrawny white guys that thinks he's all Mr. Badass, evidently drinking hooch last night, was drunk. He came back to the floor he resides on to get into bed before count, but didn't realize they were already doing a 3 a.m. count. He was in front of the door to my room when he saw they were counting, and one of the guards come out of my room just from counting it. The second guard hadn't counted in my room yet. This scrawny white guy resides in the room next to me. The guard asked him where he thought he was going and told him to get in bed. He walked into my room, where there was already 12 guys in it, went to get in what he thought was his bed, and saw there was someone in the bed. Then he looked around and realized that he was in the wrong room. He walked back out of my room, and both guards were waiting there for him because the one that counted my room already told the other guard that was there already 12 guys in that room. When he walked out, they told him to put his hands behind his back, handcuffed him, then searched him and found a cell phone in his pocket. That was all it took for them to take him to the hole. This scrawny white guy is one of the ones that decided to play tough guy when I was having some issues about 6 or 8 months back and run his mouth a bit. He hasn't dared said a word to me since that time, and we completely avoid each other if possible. Most of the time, when we pass each other in the other hall, we'll just stare at each other. He knows I won't do anything while I'm in here to hurt him, so he feels safe enough to try to act tough. I had all I could do to contain my laughter when I watched his whole episode unfold in front of me at 3 in the morning. Boy, did I ever get a kick out of that. That will help teach the piece of shit from running his mouth and thinking he's more important than what he really is, the little twerp.
I figured that right now is the time to do another entry for the book. I have 11 days and wake up left before I can go home. It's been a long road, but it's almost done. If I can keep my cool and my sanity for the next 11 days, which seems like forever still, then I will finally be able to get out of this festering piss hole and go home and try to get my life back together. Verdict Justice, NBC have published their website all over again on June 4th, 2012. So, give my lawsuit up. A whole new one, separate from the one that's going into appeal, which I'll discuss after I tell everybody about this new one for their illegalities that they are still doing by having the website up and running and slandering my name, along with many other people who are actually innocent. I also sent a letter to the federal prosecutor, the list of illegal acts that were performed by NBC and PJ by doing the show and stating that nobody paid any attention to, because it's such a big name television company and people were overexcited about being on the television show, plus about what kind of name it would give to their town, plus it was election time. Funny what money and recognition do to a person. It's all the talk of the wallets. Well, I've made a decision to try to change that, or at least put my best effort in, because I've seen too much of the disgusting way politicians and the corrupt ways of the so-called authorities these days. I'm going to take some college courses in law and become paralegal and see what I can do about starting a pro se business to help people that have been unjustly duped by their public defender system. It's terrible how it's said that a person is innocent until proven guilty, when it's actually the other way around. And what's even more sad is that a person gets condemned by other people when the government tags a name on them, or a charge that the accused hasn't had a chance to clear his name before being titled. Anyway, I'll be ending this book soon, and I'm going to start another when I get home. Oh yeah, about my lawsuit appeal. The judge dismissed my lawsuit on the basis of another guy's lawsuit when NBC put in motion the notice of supplemental authority.
Another entry. The same day, because I got jolted earlier with a reminder of things I am not going to miss and will be extremely happy to get out of my life. Earlier, in the room I abide in for the time I'm here, I was having a rare discussion with two black guys about politics, and who was at fault for a lot of the messed up things that have happened in the last 10 to 15 years. Another black guy walked in just as I said that I wouldn't vote for Obama or for Romney. I would vote for Mickey Mouse first before either of them. This black guy that walked in got all upset because I was talking about Obama and said that everything that happened during Obama's presidency was Bush's fault. I didn't bother to get in an argument with him because he's number than a pounded thumb and doesn't have shit for brains. He laughs like an old lady and acts like a little kid a majority of the time. He dodges every possible kind of responsibility he acquires and has every intention of selling drugs again when he goes back out on the street. He's a typical case of a recidivist. All because of being lazy and wanting the world to take care of him so he can lay on his fat ass on the couch and collect welfare and sell drugs. He's someone that will, without a doubt, be incarcerated again and again until he's an old man, and possibly until he dies. Like so many guys that are like him, life is just a big joke. As much as I wish I could say that being incarcerated helps people to grow to be a better person, I can't. It does some people, but most of them that are in here for selling drugs or some type of similar charge will just go back to the life they led that got them here to begin with. However, a few do change and have a better life, but if they were made to go to work to learn something, or made to go to school to learn more and get an education, then they would have a much better turnout for people staying out of prison. But in order to do that, there has to be a staff that gives a shit about how people turn out in life. And that just isn't found here at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Instead, they have a staff of the kind that can only think about what's the best way they can get through the day without being bothered by a bunch of inmates that need help doing things to better themselves. There are the few staff members here who do care, but they are a rare existence here.
Among other things that I'll be happy to get rid of is the ignorance of hearing grown men talk like infants when they say "get-a-ga" and "whizzy for the gadizzy," and all the other stupid crap they come up with that you would only ever hear coming from a kid in 2nd or 3rd grade, and probably not even that high of a grade. It's quite pathetic. Then there's the punks in here that think they're tougher than God himself. The only reason they try to act tough is because they have their backup buddies, but most of the time, if they were to get in a fight with someone, their buddies wouldn't be there to back them up. They would just stand there and watch. The problem is that their buddies egg them on to say stupid shit when they know it can get their friends' ass kicked. It takes an awful lot of willpower not to beat someone's ass when they're smaller than you, or even bigger, but especially when they're smaller, because you just can't believe that someone would or could be so stupid as to say something so ignorant to you. Amazing how ignorance takes over when a person comes in a place like this, gets surrounded by more ignorance. The most amazing thing happens when you get an ignorant acting person all alone with you. The change is completely amazing. With zero ignorance around, the person can act completely the opposite of when they're surrounded by their buddies. It's sad to see so many followers and so little amount of people that don't have enough pride in themselves to take charge of their own lives and not follow someone else's example. There's many more things that I won't miss about this/these pissholes, but I don't have enough time left here to list them all. So, maybe I'll mention more at some other time.
Hey, the gym. Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah. I'm not. Oh no. How it is. I would be. I just. Fuck you, let it come to this. Fuck it, can you fuck it off?
That's all, folks.